In the beginning of the movie we see New York City and 8099 and people enjoying the snowy weather near a frozen stream. Dr. Alexander Hard to Get is introduced as an inventor and teacher. At Columbia University he's obsessed with the idea of time travel and holds a position as a professor of applied mechanics and engineering at the university. However, his radical theories often lead to conflicts within academic circles and beyond. He also corresponds with Albert Einstein, though he has many opportunities to advance his career and start a business. Alexander prioritizes research over financial gain. He values scientific discovery over commercial endeavors. One day Alexander goes to the park to meet his girlfriend Emma. As he walks through the park he sees an early MO odor car parked by the gates. He impresses the driver by quickly activating the parking brake when the car starts to roll. Although he forgets to bring flowers, he still has a lovely time with Emma, skating and enjoying the weather. Alexander proposes to Emma and gives her an engagement ring. However, their happiness is short-lived when a thief emerges from the bushes with a gun and demands his ring. Alexander tries to protect Emma, but in the ensuing struggle the gun goes off and Emma is fatally wounded. Alexander is devastated by her death, but instead of giving up on her he decides to build a time machine to save her. He works day and night to gather all the necessary information for his research and paperwork in order to make time travel possible. As Alexander tirelessly worked on his impossible quest to create a time machine, his friend David Philby tried to console him. David asked him to accept the tragedy of them as death and stop his work. Despite this, Alexander refused to give up and continued his efforts to create a time machine. For the next 4 years Alexander worked tirelessly in his laboratory, dedicating every waking hour to refining and perfecting his time travel calculations. Finally, after 4 long years Alexander succeeded. In 1903 he was eager to travel back in time, and with the time machine finally completed he embarked on a journey back to that fateful night 4 years ago. Alexander was determined to alter the course of events and prevent the tragedy that claimed his life. To his surprise he arrived at the same location near the frozen stream where he had proposed to Em in 8099 and where she had tragically passed away. Overjoyed to see her again after so many hardships, he hugged her and decided to take her away from that place to save her life. Having intercepted Emma before she was destined to meet his 1899 counterpart, Alexander escorted her away from the park, determined to keep her safe. They walked back to her apartment together, where he left her momentarily to purchase some flowers. However, tragedy struck once again as Emma was knocked down and trampled by a horse and carriage. Outside her apartment the horses were spooked by the early motor car nearby, leading to the devastating accident. Despite Alexander's efforts to protect her from the robber, in this scene Alexander tries to change the past and save Emma's life. However, when they try to escape in a horse cart, Emma is accidentally crushed by the cart, causing her to pass away again at the same time as before. This is devastating for Alexander, but it also makes him realize that he cannot change the past. Alexander comes to a bitter realization that even if he prevents one way in which Emma could die, another tragic fate awaits her. Disillusioned by this prospect, he resolved to travel forward in time, seeking potential answers or solutions in the future. Alexander travels to the future and his time machine and arrives in 2030. There he discovers that preparations are underway for the colonization of the moon. He goes to the New York Public Library where he meets Box 114, a holographic robot with advanced technology. Alexander asks the robot about time travel between 1899 and 2030, but the robot replies that it is still a fictional concept and not yet possible. Undeterred, Alexander travels forward in time to 2037 and lands on a strange evening. He sees that the moon has come very close to Earth, causing humans to migrate to the moon and start a nuclear war over the land. This has caused the moon to become destabilized from its orbit and appear broken. There have been constant earthquakes and sea storms which have made the Earth uninhabitable for humans. In an attempt to escape, he starts his time machine but is knocked unconscious from all the earthquakes. The machine begins to travel into the future, and after many hours he awakens to find that he has traveled 800,000 years forward to the year 802701. The Earth has changed dramatically, having become lush green and peaceful. He finds himself in a strange room, and when he steps outside he sees humans living in stone-made houses. The humans migrated from the moon back to Earth back in 2037 and are now living without technological necessities. Suddenly he's confronted by a group of people who see him as an enemy and are about to attack. Fortunately, a girl named Mara rescued him from the crowd. And they can communicate in English. Alexander goes to bed and starts thinking about Emma. He falls asleep and has a nightmare where he sees a strange man with a white face who leads him to a dark cave in the jungle. The man frightens him so much that he wakes up. Mora tells Alexander that everyone in the area has been having the same nightmare. The next day Mora takes Alexander to visit the ruins of the universities of New York. Alexander becomes sad because he spent time in this area with Emma. Mora notices his sadness and asks him if he is hiding something from her. Alexander tells her that he wishes he could go back in time and prevent the upcoming disaster from happening. He is unable to solve a problem and has traveled thousands of years to find the solution. He takes Mora near a time machine intending to use it, however alarms go off and Mara starts to run. Alexander follows her and discovers that Morlocks, monstrous creatures living underground, are attacking the village for food. Morlocks have taken Mora and others with them, but Alexander manages to climb a tree to avoid being taken. The alarms sound again and everyone disappears. Later Alexander learns that Mora is missing and tries to convince the villagers to fight against the Morlocks and rescue her. However, the villagers are too afraid to do so. Alexander is left with no option but to rescue Mara. Alone, he seeks help from Mora's brother to find a guy who can inform him about the Morlocks. Mora and his brother take them to a ruined room where they hear robotic voice. It turns out to be Vox 114, a technical robot from 2030 that was kept at the university that is now in ruins. Alexander inquiries about the current scenario and the Morlocks from Vox. It is revealed that half of the survivors after the destruction of the moon began to live underground, and with time they underwent rapid evolutionary genetic changes and turned wild. These wild people, known as Morlocks, come outside the hunt for food. Since there is very limited food underground, Fox provides Alexander with a map that would guide him to the location of the Morlocks. After saying goodbye to Vox, Alexander leaves the ruins with Mora, his brother. He assures him that he will rescue his sister safely, and they begin following the map through the dark and ruined paths of the jungle. They ultimately reach the same cave that he had seen in his nightmare. Despite finding many decomposed human bones inside, they continue forward. They also discover some simple machines inside the cave, indicating that these Morlocks are becoming advanced again after the first evolutionary split of humankind. However, while walking forward he accidentally makes noise and attracts the Morlocks towards him. They capture him and take him to a larger area where they find Mora inside a cage. Alexander is relieved to see that Mora is still alive. Alexander encounters the same white-faced man from his nightmare on a high cliff. Though he appears human, his skin is unsettlingly white. Mara is fixated on the man and seems to be under his hypnotic control. Alexander learns that the man is the leader of the Morlocks, a telepath who can read human minds with ease. Approaching Alexander, the man demands to know who he is. Alexander responds that he has come seeking answers as a time traveler. The man astounds Alexander by revealing that he cannot change the past. He then orders Alexander to return home and summons his time machine. Before Alexander departs, the man gives him a watch that was stolen from Mora's home. At this point the time machine has been activated and Alexander manages to pull the man inside the machine cleverly. However, the man tries to harm Alexander while they are traveling through time. Despite this, Alexander somehow throws the man out of the machine and he disappears because Alexander has set the time travel to be over 600 million years into the future. From this point, as a result of the travel, Alexander is ended up 6354 to 7810 years in the future. He finds himself in a barren land where he learns that the Morlocks have taken over and destroyed human civilization. The Morlocks are now forced to fight for survival and cannibalize each other due to a lack of resources. Alexander realizes the dire situation and gets an idea to start a new and better beginning for humanity. According to his plan, he intended to travel to the past and eliminate the Morlocks before they could harm humans. Came to educate the remaining human population in a better way. He was aware that the humans that once lived on the Earth's surface were not cruel and had plans to start a new culture. Therefore he decided to travel to the past again and reach the same place where Mara was imprisoned. He quickly rescued Mara and started to escape from the cave. However, the time machine exploded due to the intense pressure inside the cave. As a result, the entire cave and the path leading to it caught fire. After a while, Alexander and Mora made it outside safely. They decided to live together and a new culture of mankind began to take shape. This marked the beginning of an educated culture.
Subscribe and press the bell so you don't miss any updates.